Hello everyone, I thought I would do a very quick video on a deep dive on one particular asset I've made for my game, in case it is of interest to people who may want to do the same thing, or in case you just want to hear my dulcet tones showing you meaningless things in Unreal Engine. Both work for me, have fun. Okay, so this is a procedural road sign to populate my game, which will have stretches of futuristic London suburbia, and London suburbia is nothing without its road signs, so here we are. I need to do some work on the texturing side, but you get the gist. Here I've put this up here. This is a version that you stick on a wall, but you can see the lettering is slightly embossed. The effect could be better, but I had some problems because it's a stretched texture. But basically there's a base colour texture and there's a height map, and there's a material that displays both, as you see. There is a complication in that these signs have rounded edges, which means that if you just stretch a mesh with rounded edges, you get oblong edges. It doesn't look good, especially when you are matching the sort of how to put it, the rounded edges are on the outside and on the inside. The inside is generated as the texture, the outside is a mesh feature, and you want them to match, otherwise it looks really stupid and shit. So there we go. I'm now going to stop, and I have to remember to close this silly window, otherwise I talk for 5 minutes and there's a log window covering anything. I think we're okay, I think we're good. So I'll jump in and out of implementation details, so this may turn into meaningless drivel for a while. Even if you are familiar with Unreal Engine, I can accept that possibility. So it looks different here because there's stuff I can't really do in a constructor, as you would normally do. I resize the meshes, I can put the poles in or not the poles in, that's a constructor thing. But all the widgety stuff to generate the procedural text, that has to wait until begin play, because Slate is not initialized properly in the constructor, and this is especially a problem if you're packaging. So that's how that is. So I've got some preview text which more or less matches the generated text, so that you can change this to be in real time. I manually adjust the width, because if I was to do it automatically I would probably need Slate to be running, and as I've just said, that's a problem in the constructor. So that's fine. You can manually do it and test that. You can change the postcode too if you want to do it. You can have a different base widget, so you can child class the general one to have a special version of it, different borough or something. This is very exciting stuff. I love road signs. Yeah, so what is going on under the hood? So I mentioned the rounded edges. Here they are. This is implemented by having an end piece with the rounded edges, a middle piece that can be re-stretched arbitrarily, and then another end piece that is the same as the first one but flipped. And so in the constructor it works out a few things. It works out how big the middle piece should be and scales it based on your desired width, and then it figures out where the UVs need to transition. So the UVs are how you map the texture onto the meshes, and because the middle one stretches, you can't just have fixed UVs at the end of it. So there needs to be a hack. Because I've chosen the hard path, not the easy path, there has to be a hack to do that. So in the material, which is used for the sign, the meshes have UVs going from 0 to 1, and the material takes that and maps it onto specified start and end UVs. So the curved end will be told your UVs start at 0 and end at 0.01 or something. And the middle piece is told you start at 0.01 and you end at 9.99, and so on and so forth. There's some other stuff going on. It's really just hacky stuff to try and tease out specular and roughness from the base texture, because I'm lazy and I don't want to keep creating more versions of textures than I need, especially as there will be quite a few of these. So in the begin play in our sign blueprint, we figure out the widget class. So we're turning soft references into actual classes. We create the widget, which I'll show you in a minute, and then we grab it. We grab the base color texture and we grab the height map, telling the widget to display a height map first. And then we set up the materials. This is kind of standard stuff, but you know, it's stringing it all together, and if you miss one step it all fails horribly. So you create a dynamic material instance, which is something you can put parameters into in real time. You set that in each of the meshes, and then you start setting the parameters. So here it is setting the UV transitions I was talking about for each of the materials, and then it sets the aspect ratio, which allows the detail texture to be displayed with a square pixel ratio, and then you set the textures. That is it for setting it up. I mean, it takes a little while to set it up, but there's nothing crazy going on there. I've got a few little extra things, like the pole is just a separate mesh which is added at the appropriate place, and in the blueprint I've added on some bolts just for a bit more visual detail. So it looks a bit nicer. Again, texturing could be improved, but that's not a problem for now. And this is the widget I'm using to make the procedural road signs. So you could do material work in here. You could have like a dirty texture. You could put in all sorts of things, but at the moment I'm just keeping this as the plain text and doing everything else in the material, but that could be changed. You could subclass this and, you know, have different versions with different degrees of being dirty, that kind of thing. But I'm using the layout possibilities of widgets, which are very flexible. Here is the hidden property which turns it into a height map. And here I've done things like have an outline for the height map so that there's a smoother transition to the letters, so they look more nicely embossed. If I turn that off, you'll see there is no outline on the text. So I'm doing that. I've had to make a C++ class to render that into a texture. There's nothing fancy with that. It's like one call, but you can only do it in C++ for reasons the epic gods have decided. But if you Google rendering a widget into a texture, you will find that call, and you can put it into your own C++ class. I would show you, but I don't want to risk breaking OBS again, because that was really frustrating. Can't begin to tell you how frustrating this has been. But I'm fine, everything's fine. So that in a nutshell is how I have made my procedural signs. But to use them now, you just plop them in or copy them, change your text, set your width, and there you go. Bish bash bosh, job done.